A friend dared a struggling single dad to take the most impossible woman in the city on a date, the cold, powerful CEO everyone was afraid to approach. He laughed at first. She would never say yes to a man like him. But that night, when the CEO walked into his tiny restaurant and saw the little boy sitting alone at a corner table, something unexpected happened. She didn't see a poor single father anymore. She saw a man who had quietly sacrificed everything for his child. And neither of them knew that one simple dare would lead to a secret, a heartbreaking discovery, and a lesson that would change both their lives forever. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us share more stories about kindness, hope, and the power of never giving up. Daniel Carter was 34 years old and had learned that life could change in a single moment. 5 years earlier, his wife had passed away after a long illness, leaving him alone with their 4-year-old son, Noah. Daniel had no rich family to help him. He had no savings. He had no time to feel sorry for himself. Every morning, he woke up before sunrise, prepared Noah's breakfast, packed his school bag, and walked him to school. Then Daniel went to work at a small restaurant downtown. It wasn't a glamorous job, but Daniel was proud of it. He worked hard because Noah was his whole world. One Friday evening, Daniel sat with his best friend Marcus after closing the restaurant. Marcus had known Daniel since college. He had watched him struggle, work, and raise Noah alone. "You need a life too," Marcus said. Daniel laughed. "My life is Noah." "That's exactly the problem," Marcus replied. "You never think about yourself." Daniel shook his head. "I don't have time for dating." Marcus smiled mischievously. "Fine. I dare you." Daniel looked at him. "Dare me to do what?" "Ask someone on a date." Daniel laughed even louder. "Who?" Marcus pointed toward the newspaper lying on the table. On the front page was a photograph of Victoria Sterling, the 39-year-old CEO of Sterling Industries. Victoria was famous for being brilliant, successful, and extremely private. People called her the Ice Queen because she rarely smiled and never allowed anyone close to her. Daniel stared at the picture. "You've lost your mind." Marcus grinned. "I dare you to ask Victoria Sterling on a date." Daniel almost fell out of his chair laughing. "She probably has 100 people asking her every week. Then one more won't hurt." "It won't happen." "Exactly. So what are you afraid of?" Daniel looked at his friend and sighed. "Fine. I'll ask her." Marcus raised his eyebrows. "Really?" "Yes. But if she says no, you owe me dinner." The next morning, Daniel found Victoria's business email online. He stared at the screen for 10 minutes before typing. He didn't pretend to be rich. He didn't tell her he owned a successful business. He simply wrote that he was a single father, worked at a restaurant, and had been dared by his best friend to ask her out. He expected nothing. To his shock, Victoria replied. "Friday. 7 o'clock. Your restaurant." Daniel couldn't believe it. Marcus nearly screamed when he heard. But Friday arrived, and Daniel became nervous. Victoria walked into the restaurant wearing a simple black dress. The entire room became quiet. Daniel approached her. "Thank you for coming." Victoria looked around. "I was curious." "About what?" "About the man who had enough courage to ask me out because of a dare." Daniel smiled. "Honestly, I thought you would say no." "So did I." They both laughed. For the first time in years, Victoria smiled without forcing it. But then Daniel noticed something. Victoria wasn't eating. She kept looking toward the restaurant entrance. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I'm fine." Daniel didn't push her. Instead, he brought her a warm cup of tea. You don't have to talk about anything you don't want to. Victoria looked at him. Why are you being kind to me? Daniel seemed confused. Because you're sitting here. That's it. That's enough. Those simple words stayed with Victoria. Then the restaurant door opened. A young boy walked inside. It was Noah. Daniel immediately stood up. Noah. What happened? The boy's eyes were red. I couldn't find you. Daniel rushed toward him and hugged him. I'm right here. Noah held on to his father tightly. Victoria watched silently. Daniel explained that Noah had been waiting for him at school, but the person who usually brought him home had been delayed. Daniel had been so busy preparing for the evening that he hadn't checked his phone. He felt terrible. I'm sorry, buddy. It's okay, Dad. Noah looked at Victoria. Is she your girlfriend? Daniel's face turned red. Victoria laughed. No. Not yet. Daniel stared at her. For the first time, Victoria looked genuinely happy. They spent the rest of the evening together. Victoria listened as Daniel talked about Noah's school, his work, and the little dreams he had for his son. Daniel listened when Victoria finally opened up about her own life. Her father had built Sterling Industries, but after he died, Victoria had taken control of the company. She had spent years proving herself to people who believed a woman could never lead such a large business. She had become strong because she believed weakness would make people leave. Daniel looked at her and said quietly. Being strong doesn't mean you have to be alone. Victoria didn't answer. But her eyes filled with tears. Over the next few weeks, something unexpected happened. The dare became friendship. The friendship became trust. Victoria began visiting Daniel's restaurant. She brought books for Noah. She helped him with his school project. She never treated Daniel like a poor man who needed saving. She treated him like a good father. Then one evening, Daniel received a phone call. Noah had collapsed at school. Daniel rushed to the hospital. He sat beside his son, terrified. The doctor said Noah needed an important treatment, but the cost was more than Daniel could afford. Daniel sat alone in the hospital hallway, staring at the floor. Victoria found him there. Daniel. He looked up. I can't do this. She sat beside him. You don't have to do it alone. Daniel shook his head. I can't take your money. Victoria held his hand. Then don't take my money. He looked at her. Let me help. Daniel was silent. Victoria continued. When my father died, everyone helped me. Lawyers. Managers. Friends. I thought I didn't need anyone. But I was wrong. She squeezed his hand. Sometimes kindness isn't about giving someone what they need. Sometimes it's about reminding them that they don't have to carry everything by themselves. Daniel finally began to cry. Victoria stayed beside him. She didn't make promises she couldn't keep. She didn't try to fix everything. She simply stayed. And that was exactly what Daniel needed. Noah received the treatment he needed and slowly recovered. Months later, he returned to school. Daniel continued working at the restaurant, but something had changed. He no longer believed he had to face every problem alone. Victoria changed too. The woman everyone once called the Ice Queen started visiting local schools and community centers. She quietly funded programs for children of single parents. She never wanted her name on the buildings. When someone asked why, she simply said, because kindness should be about helping people, not getting applause. 1 year after the dare, Marcus invited Daniel and Victoria to dinner. He raised his glass. To the stupidest dare I have ever made. Everyone laughed. Daniel looked at Victoria. I have to admit, it turned out pretty well. Victoria smiled. Very well. Noah looked between them. So, are you two finally dating? Daniel and Victoria looked at each other. Then they both laughed. Some stories begin with a dare. Some begin with a chance meeting. But the best stories begin when two people choose kindness over judgment. Daniel never became rich overnight. Victoria never stopped being successful. But together, they discovered something more valuable than money. They discovered that a person doesn't need to have everything to give something. A warm meal. A listening ear. A helping hand. A few minutes of your time. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can become the biggest turning point in someone's life. So remember this story the next time you see someone struggling. You may never know what battle they are fighting. You may never know how much courage it took for them to get through the day. But one kind word from you might give them the strength to keep going. Because kindness costs nothing, yet it can change everything. And sometimes, the person you think needs your kindness may be the person who teaches you what kindness truly means.